Welcome again, everyone, to another episode of Disruption Drive. My next guest is moving the needle beyond the experiment phase of self driving cars, focusing instead on providing a luxury grade user experience, treating the passenger as an esteemed guest rather than a rider. Shalin James Anto is the founder and CEO of Pliyt, a revolutionary design for the car of the future. He has a background very deep in safety and interior design of vehicles, including stints at Tesla, but he's now working on ensuring the rideshare of the future feels like personalized luxury in your travel. One vehicle, four pods. Shalin, welcome to the show. And I wanted to quickly ask you you're obviously working on a very interesting problem, but I've often seen in a car enthusiast seeing sharing versus privacy as sort of a trade-off. You're designing either for privacy or share, or you have a shared vehicle that is not exactly private at all. You're doing both. How does your vehicle work?
So, Hari, thank you so much for inviting me to the show. So, as you said, Pliyt, we are building a completely new sector of mobility, I would say. So, to start off with, Pliyt stands for personalized luxury in your travels, as you said,
Personalized
and
luxury in your travel.
in your travel. That's right.
Going to be like a hotel room when you're traveling.
Correct.
All right, so tell us
Your
more.
own personal space. That's where we are going with Pliyt.
So it's everyone. It's WeWork meets Uber at a luxury. Well, let's make it Ritz-Carlton meets Uber.
So it's a luxury, but we are not charging for that. So that's the main part, right? So basically, as you mentioned, like when we talk about like privacy and sharing, so basically there's a conflict as of today, as of where mobility stands of today, right? So because whenever we talk about a shared riding experience, so automatically what comes to people's mind is like they have to compromise a lot of things. So basically, they're compromising their safety, security, and their personal comfort. So
Safety,
at Pliyt,
security, and personal comfort.
correct. And at Pliyt, that's where we started thinking like, because ride sharing, if you think about ride sharing, it's a very efficient way of transportation, right? So it's cost effective. It helps reduce traffic congestion, carbon dioxide emissions, so many things. But still, people are very hesitant to use ride sharing. So because like people, when they think of ride sharing, they think of a compromise, like about their all the things that I just mentioned. So at Pliyt, what we are thinking is like how we can encourage people to use ride sharing without asking them to compromise their comfort zone. So how do we make that happen at Pliyt? So basically, we are building vehicles with independently enclosed soundproof ports, which means like, yeah, go ahead, Harry.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish. Which means, what does it mean?
Sure. So what that means is like, imagine like a vehicle of an MPV size vehicle, and you have an exactly same comfort of a solo riding experience inside that vehicle at a shared level. So
Right.
what that means is like a shared vehicle with a completely enclosed
Dependent
sound
pod.
isolated ports, I would
Right.
say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you were actually betting on increasing the ride sharing market as well, but you're obviously providing it, as a first class ride sharing experience. But tell me a little bit about the customer and let's get into this because customers are still there. There is the ride sharing part, which you're saying is still growing. That
Right.
not not customers. Customers tend to still not want ride sharing, and that's a fair point. But
Right.
there's also the autonomy angle, which is very nascent. Customers are still not, there yet. They're in a handful of cities, of course, but it's at best a pilot project. But you're building for a future that hasn't arrived yet. Is that a
Right.
fair point?
So I would say like it was like that until like recently, but I think if you specifically look at like US developments on autonomous vehicle stacks, so Waymo so far it has proved that autonomy is going to be the future, right? Based on all the statistics that we see from the Waymo driver, we could see that the Waymo driver can drive efficiently without having less injury, less less accidents and so on. So which means like the autonomy is going to be the future. And on the other end, like if you see like companies like Zoox, they are completely redefining the vehicle itself, taking the leverage of autonomy. If you also look at Zoox, the thing that they are doing differently is that they took off the driver, the steering wheel and the pedals, right? So that shows that the complete industry is going to evolve in the coming days. And these vehicles are on the road. It's not like on a concept or it is currently in operation. So autonomy is something like it is going to be there and it's going to be the future for sure. And that's the confidence that we have at
Autonomy
Plug.
is happening. Autonomy is
Right.
happening.
Yes.
And of course, it looks like what you're saying is, well, the design of the car itself will become a differentiator. And, obviously Zoox, I've ridden a Zoox. It's the experience is nothing great, right? It's a simple plastic car,
Right.
but
So,
it's autonomous.
uh, right. So, but I would appreciate that Souks has taken such a bold step and giving that light to the future, saying that okay, they are going first, right? They took the steering wheel out of the equation and they promised that okay, the driver is not there anymore. So that's a big signal to the industry itself. So that's where we step in with our concept because for Pliyt and our concept of like the port interior concept has to in order to make it happen. So definitely the driver cannot exist. So we have to take the driver out of the equation, which means like the steering wheel, pedals, everything has to go completely out of the scene, right? And the just the one thing that you just mentioned about like the transformation of the automotive industry. So that's definitely going to happen because the reason being like Souks has completely redefined the look of the vehicle and the interior experience in a different way, showing that that's the direction. But at Pliyt, what we are trying to do is we are coming up with a completely new design which transforms the interior experience of the vehicle. So that's where Pliyt steps in. We are coming up with a completely new experience for people who value their privacy.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this then. I want to take you through basically you're fundamentally a designer. You have a background in design. Yeah, I know you worked at Tesla quite famously designing the interior of a car. How do you dimensionalize design? How do you think of design and how are you identifying those user pain points of, when, by the way, actual usage of autonomy is not certain yet. We are currently stepping into a car that feels like any normal car, but you have gone way ahead and rethought the entire user experience. So how did you break that down? Yeah, Shall you mute? You're on mute.
Sorry. So I have to route this again back to the point where we take the driver out of the equation because the interior of the vehicle design starts keeping in mind that there is a driver in place, right? So we design everything based out of like the driver's requirement. So basically, there is a set requirement of the driver for the visibility, for the front, for the side, for the rear, and also the driver should not have some blind spots and those kind of. There is a lot of things that we have to take care while designing the interior components of the vehicle. But when the driver goes out of these design parameters or restrictions, so we could transform the vehicle interior in a way that the industry has not seen so far. So basically, if you see Pliyt, the design itself, like you can see that the vehicle interior over the last 100 years has changed a little to, very little, I would say.
Yeah.
But if you see the Pliyt interior, so you can see it's a complete transformation of the interior. And we are able to do this because this is a time like, where the AV has proved that, okay, this is going to be the future. So that's where I started thinking that the interior can transform in a way that, it has not been done so far.
We've talked a lot about the interior, but I also want to talk about, well, the nuts and bolts of a car itself, because Pliyt still remains a car. You offer a great experience, a robo taxi for introverts, I think you were described as. But tell us about the boring parts that people don't see: the wheels, the brakes, fuel gauges. How do you ensure that those stay high quality as well? And how do you ensure that, because obviously you're differentiating on customer experience, so you have to provide probably top quality and those things as well.
Sure. So basically, Pliyt as a company, so we are more into like integrating and like bring the customer experience into like into the people in a fast pace, right? So we are relying on like a lot of like proved technologies, I would say. So basically, we are not completely developing the platform in-house. So basically, we are partnering with proven competitors, main players in the market. So basically, we get most of our vehicle dynamics and the NVH durability and all these things. We are partnering with one of the main players in the market to get that part. And also for the AV part, we are partnering with one of the leading proven technology companies for the driving part. And obviously at Pliyt, our main goal is to integrate these things in a way that the vehicle platform and the interior experience are designed and to make sure that they work in harmony to give the best passenger experience.
So you're focused on the interior, while of course third party, of course, reputed players in the space provide the vehicle chassis as well as the autonomous vehicle software. So you're not necessarily
Right.
betting on complete vertical integration of your vehicle.
Yes. Yes.
And let me ask you then, you're of course fairly early in your journey. You're an early stage startup, and I know you launched famously at CES. What's been your go-to market?
So we launched in CS, as you just mentioned. So it is that was one of our main milestone, I would say, because what we are trying to do at Pliyt is something which has not been done till date, right? So obviously the market realization and the what we say the likeness from the market to have something like this, we had to have real time validation, which has been completely successful at CES. People are waiting for seeing something like this to come for them to experience the shared ride. And going forward in the coming days, I think we are head down focused on developing this vehicle to bring to market by 2028. And what we are going where we are going with this product is basically we want to prove that the ride sharing experience doesn't have to be tied up with a compromise anymore.
Absolutely. Let me ask you I think a great point. So you really don't want people to have to compromise between ride sharing and sort of just owning their own vehicle.
Yeah.
But is there a world in which a Pliyt is a personally owned vehicle, or do you see this fundamentally as partnering with ride sharing?
So at CES, there was a lot of queries like whether we want to sell this vehicle because people are ready to buy this vehicle because of the comfort that we provide inside the vehicle, right? Because we have the zero gravity seats and a lot of luxuries, which makes people to think like they want to buy this. But at this point, we are not selling this vehicle, and we are
And
not. Means one thing I want to reiterate is that we are not an OEM, we are not a car manufacturer, we are not building this vehicle to sell to public, and we are a ride
yep.
sharing company. And we are building these vehicles because this vehicle doesn't exist. And the design
You-
what we have,
So the
yeah,
ride sharing companies, you will be a ride sharing company going to market offering better quality vehicles that are already produced by other OEMs, possibly multiple OEMs, looks like.
so there's a big correction in that. So basically, uh, so this vehicle, we are producing this vehicle, right? Even though we are not an OEM, we have OEM, we have to make this vehicle because this vehicle doesn't exist in the market and we cannot retrofit our design onto any of the current existing vehicle. Because for developing or if we have to bring out a vehicle with the privacy port design, so your vehicle has to be designed from ground up, which we are doing.
Got it. Got it. Fair enough. Let me ask you as we sort of zoom out a little bit. You may be one of the actual solutions to congestion because I think you mentioned that rideshare was originally promised as reducing congestion, but in reality increased it because, and they didn't foresee it, that they would create an entire industry of basically gig economy drivers who then created more cars on the streets. Now you actually break the trade-off between sharing and personal privacy. But I want to ask you this, and of course, the other point I want to make is this is one of the possible ways in which wealthier people potentially start using public transit as well. Will the rich start taking more public transit because of Pliyt?
That's what we want to do. But again, like yeah, means ideally that would be the best case scenario for us, and that's what we are trying to do. We want to promote as much as people to use ride sharing rather than like making means keeping means seeing that as a place where they have to enter with a lot of compromises. So means to answer the question, Hari, I think the public transport to a certain extent there will be always a set of people who enjoy traveling like in a group or like in an open space. But where we are going with our design and our product is like people who value their privacy and their personal experience and who want to use their time productive while they're on the road. So definitely
And do you see
like
this as long term, maybe longer rides are one because essentially it becomes a aeroplane on the road.
correct, correct. So
Longer
basically
ride.
it means it's a simple use case scenario is like if you see any of the metro cities like there's professionals who are traveling out of the city because of like, so and so reasons they cannot afford to stay on the city. So they have to travel to the city for their work, right?
Long
So
haul rides.
they waste like almost like 1 to 1.5 hour on the road. And a vehicle like Pliyt could be an solution so that they can use their time efficiently while they're on the road. Either it could be working or relaxing or reading a book or whatever it is without interfering the other fellow passengers, which means like, and one thing I want to reiterate is like, so currently in the market, there is a solo riding experience, right? You travel on your personal vehicle, which is like 80% of the people are doing. And only like 10 to 15% of the people are like, doing shared rides. So where we are going with is like, we want to blend the best out of this solo riding and the shared riding experience. And we are targeting to create a completely new sector of mobility where you get the complete benefit of a solo riding, but without compromising the shared riding efficiency.
Benefits of solo riding without compromising on sharing. Autonomy is inevitable, but the driver-centric cabin hopefully becomes a relic. Prioritizing passenger and technology integration, Pliyt is redesigning the interior, delivering a first-of-a-kind experience the industry has never seen. First of a kind. So Shalin wanted to thank you for your time. But when can people actually see the Pliyt? I believe.
So we will have our working prototypes on the road by end of this year. But again, the official launch will be in 2028 in San Francisco.
Wonderful, Shalin. Thank you for your time and thank you for your amazing progress so far.
Thank you so much, Harry.